for you. Right, Coach Overview Fit Studio, talking about self-soothing. Now, I've done a definition for a while, but I am going to do a definition of what self-soothing self-soothing is, and what I'm meaning in this kind of in this live and in this definition. So self-soothing is a way, I've written it down because it's a definition, is a way in which we treat ourselves to feeling better so we can move forward past any negativity and pain. So I'll repeat that. Self-soothing is a way in which we treat ourselves to feeling better so we can move forward past any negativity and pain. So I don't know what's going on. Hey Viva. Self-soothing. Okay, so treat ourselves into feeling better. I could break that down individually by itself, whether or not it's a treat or not. However, I'm just going to move past that because it's just a definition that I found. The thing is that for me, the most important bit is the last part of it. So we can move forward past any negativity and pain. Now, if we look to some of our behaviours over the last few months, I'm sure all of us can see and highlight moments of which we've used either alcohol or food, in that order potentially, to move past a current pain or negativity. Now, what kind of negativity and pain am I seeing currently now? Big one, negative would be, for me currently when I talk to clients about why they're still soothing, I don't yet know if I'm going away in the summer with my family, therefore I'm kind of treading water. I can't commit to knowing that's going to happen, so I'm not looking forward to it. So what I'm doing is I'm soothing my potential pain in the future by soothing it now in the current. I don't mean to laugh. Also, kind of, if we're going to go into it, maybe some elements of I'm predicting future pain, that we're going to be going into another lockdown, or something that's going to change on the roadmap and all that, and therefore I'm soothing myself against the potential pain in the future by soothing myself and treating myself right now to move past that, right? So I'm trying to push past it now in my head by treating myself to whatever it is from food or alcohol in that moment in time, to help me get past either the current pain I'm feeling that I can't do something, or not being able to plan for something, or even predicting future pain and going, well, that's going to hurt later when that happens. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to treat myself now and just get me through this. Just get me through this. So that is the definition of self-soothing, and what I'm looking at in terms of what I'm experiencing with clients and in conversations and what I'm observing. So what happens when you self-soothe with food or alcohol? You gain weight. If it's on the extreme, if you're someone who potentially, if you, again, you may, so everything's on a scale, right? So it might be you have small instances of this or quite large instances of this, and repeatedly. If you're someone that does this on a regular basis, you will know that you can't outrun energy balance forever. Putting it simply, I'm not into energy balance again, I've done it to death, right? However, if you are someone who is, yes, I'm going to get to that, Zainab. You're totally right. That is one of the reasons why this live happened. That's going to be Facebook in a bit. What Zainab's just said. So energy balance, you're going to gain weight, because basically if you're somebody who always seeks not negativity, but actually probably does. If you're someone who sees something as negative, or it's always a worst case scenario, there's always predicting a large amount of pain, either personal or environmental, and therefore will most likely self-soothe more in the moment, and will therefore be eating or consuming more calories through either food or alcohol. And Zainab quite nicely chipped in there, like binging before Ramadan or binging before the next fast. Correct. Or what we see when someone does a challenge, when they binge before a challenge, right? Submit the weight on Friday, start the challenge on a Monday, binge over the weekend, right? Because they're predicting it's going to be painful or it's going to be difficult in the future. So they're soothing that predictable pain now. So self-soothing now for predicting the pain later. Similarly to fasting, yes. Do we see that? Yes. Do we see that on a daily basis sometimes? Yes. Right? So if someone is fasting throughout the day and they're finding it difficult, and quite understandably, they will break the fast in the evening. They potentially will overeat during that window of being able to eat because they're predicting that it's going to be painful. They're self-soothing the next day's pain of fasting. So we see a lot of self-soothing between actually in the middle of Ramadan, and definitely definitely before, like the weekend or the few days before Ramadan, Hail Mary, right? People are going for it. And, you know, we'll talk about this in this kind of fashion with human behaviour. You can understand why it happens or why it is happening. So what else might cause that? Generally speaking, if I'm going to talk about not specifics, generally speaking, yes, you call Ramadan part of life event, actually, to be fair. But also you'll see it when there's emotional life event for somebody. Now that might be loss of a relationship, a bereavement, a challenge with work. I could say challenge or loss of job, right? If I'm going for extremes when it comes to life events, risk of business, something like that. What then happens? A hell of a lot of soothing, again, because of either the perceived current pain or predicting the pain that's going to come with all the stress with those events. And therefore, there's a lot of soothing that goes on. So why do we soothe? What does self-soothing give us or you if you're doing it? So I've listed some things and I'll go through them individually. So firstly, and interestingly, right, you could do it back and forth. I'm only going to go for general observations. I've placed self-control as the number one thing that self-soothing. I think that self-soothing creates control, because someone might argue, well, hang on, isn't self-soothing the absolute opposite of control? Isn't self-soothing a complete lack of control when it comes to food and or how someone's approaching their food? Surely it's just binging. And it's not, to some degree, because if you speak to somebody who's self-soothing, or if you think at your own behaviours, what's actually happening is some elements of life are out of someone's control or influence to some degree. Just going back to examples I've just used, so issues around family, job, etc., etc., that may then cause the sensational feeling that essentially there's no control over the food or what's happening in terms. So a little bit of self-soothing is like, I'm controlling some element of my life or some element of my person, my emotions, by eliciting this behaviour with food or with alcohol. I'm actually creating control, right? When the rest of my life doesn't feel like it's in control, actually, I'm going to create this moment, I'm going to set up, I'm going to plan for it, I'm going to enjoy it, I'm taking a time out, I'm controlling this part of my emotion in my life. So actually, whilst you could argue that self-soothing is out of control, in fact, practically speaking, it's entirely the opposite. It creates control for us over certain elements, whether we want the outcome that comes with it or not, like the gaining weight I talked about is a different kettle of fish. But what it does do is create the emotional feeling of control, right? We all know what I think about emotions anyway. Well, this is good. This is a good one as well. Come with confidence. People are like, why how's it give confidence? How does self-soothing give confidence? It allows somebody to know that they can create a break away from life. So once somebody feels again, or thinks, right, non-emotional, thinks that they can create time away, it gives them some confidence that they can get through something, right? Remember, going back to the original definition, feeling better so we can move forward past negativity and pain, right? So somebody gets confidence that when they get through something by using alcohol or food as a self-soothing tool, they can confidently say, well, I got through this. I got through it last time. What I did last time is I had a glass of wine every night. Yeah, I know I can do this. I'm great at this. I've got confidence I can do this, right? Okay, so self-soothing can create confidence that it's a coping mechanism tool, regardless of the outcome when it comes to weight, okay? It diminishes anxiety. It actually reduces anxiety. Because again, it creates that break, that mental break away from something, whatever that stressor is. Or if you talk about, say, I'm talking about Ramadan, it'll be like, I'm just going to forget for a period of time that I'm about to go into this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to self-soothe with food, and then everything's good, right? I can manage the next month. Because what I'm going to do is take a psychological break from this now. I'm going to reduce my anxiety about having to do it, and I feel great. A bit like, I guess, again, we talked about people doing the challenge. Oh, I'm worried about the challenge, is it going to go well or not? Do you know what? I'm just going to take a break away from it. I'm going to reduce my anxiety about starting this challenge. I'm just going to use alcohol and food over the next however hours to take the psychological break away. And again, get through, move forward past the negativity and pain I'm having in the moment. What else does it do? Ooh, see, I really nobody thought I was going to come up with these. It establishes independence. What? Yes, because it creates a coping mechanism. So while other people around you or around other people you've experienced maybe struggling with some elements of kind of the big stresses I talked about, you may be finding that actually I'm dealing with this great. This is great. Again, goes back to confidence. What I'm using with food and how I'm soothing myself with food and giving myself little treats to get through it, that's really working for me. You know, I don't worry about anybody else, what they're doing. I'm just going to focus on my coping mechanisms, and I'm just keep building on that and building confidence around it and cementing it in place. And the big one, I mean, it's self-soothing, so it goes without saying to some degree that it comforts you in the moment of the pain. So it creates comfort. So let's go for it. You elicit some self-control over what might feel like a period of lack of control of the other areas of your life. It creates confidence that you have the ability to deal with these things with using the tools that you've created through those outlets, or what you want to call it. It diminishes your anxiety. It establishes independence from anybody else who might be struggling, and it gives comfort to you, right? So it comforts you in those hours. So how was it created in the first place, right? How does this happen? I mean, some of it you might think it's logical, and cover it anyway because it's the point of doing a live, right? So things that create the need. I've talked about negativity and pain in some scenarios, but you think about fear. So fear, a lack of failure of something, a lack of being unable to do something, a lack of the unknown, scared of the unknown. Worrying about outcomes, worrying about the multiple, you know, we worry, think, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? Go through a rabbit hole of different outcomes before you even do something. Worry or do it. Stress, concern, a lack of confidence, right? Ironically, self-soothing creates confidence, but actually it comes from a lack of confidence in your ability to do something, and the seeking of something to soothe that pain or inadequacy of something you're seeing might be painful if it doesn't go according to plan. So, covered quite a lot. Jeez, covered quite a lot already. I thought it was a short one. It's not. So, I like to start with, not always, it's always good to start with definition, what it is, how it gets created, what it is, and then to think about some solutions. Now, this is, here we go, just don't do it. I like that. Sounds like it's a very logical response. Just don't do it then. You know, if it's, think about all the positives that something gives though. Sometimes, and I'm not saying also, steady, I'm not saying that it's a great outcome. If we go back to what the outcome is, what happens if you self-soothe on a regular basis or too much, you are going to gain weight or put the brakes on you attempting to lose weight for sure. Like definitely, without a doubt. Now the thing is that the way of looking at it, and the way I do it with some clients, is to look at the five senses. Like, what? Bear with. Right, so I've gone through, these are some things that you can do, these do legitimately work, because it's about, to some degree, a lot of these feelings, and I'm using the word feelings because we know, well, let me reiterate, feelings come from thought processes, so you can think yourself into any emotional state. I talked about this before. I can think myself angry in about 2 seconds flat. I could also think myself upset if I just thought about Bambi for long enough, or any start of a Disney film. That could probably do it. I could think myself happy if I thought about all of the great experiences I've had, or any emotion can be created by thoughts. So this is, with self-soothing, this is no different, because we're putting ourselves in emotional pain through negative thinking and negative thought processes and perceived fear, pain, worry, with all the thoughts that we're creating. So think about all the five senses. These are all things that actually distract the brain from the thought process. So I'll go through them. They do work. If you find yourself in that situation, like, oh, I really need a glass of wine to get over today, it's so stressful, and tomorrow's gonna be really bad, so if I have a glass of wine tonight, I feel great. This is self-soothing. Think about things like, so going with the first one, touch. So bubble baths, massages, even you get your other half involved. Yeah, even better. Make it a group exercise. Okay, that didn't come out at the moment. Anyway, bubble bath, Epsom salts, something that gives a sensation to touch to the skin that distracts you from the thought process is very effective. If you've ever heard of tapping as a mechanism of dealing with anxiety, and I'm doing it right now, it's great because my brain's just switched off. That is the same thing as touch, right? So this is also a coping mechanism for self-soothing. So there's all different places you can touch the face, forehead. My favourite is here, just on a collarbone, right? You do it on your hands, etc. This is my favourite. So again, touch is a great way of distracting the brain from putting yourself into that situation where you create the tool with food or alcohol. So taste is always a good one. So herbal teas, etc. We talk about it in terms of sweetness and how that can distract somebody. And actually though, a nice warm drink that has flavour and taste to it and different tastes is again a way for some clients, not all, right? Again, I'm not saying all of them work for everybody, just some of them work for some people, is a nice way to distract somebody. So a smell, right? Smell, aromatherapy, lighting some candles, which can also be visual as well, but the aromatherapy side of it, you combine the two, right? And have a nice massage with some oils. Banger for distraction and would completely switch someone's brain off, for sure. Sight, so I've talked about candlelight's really good for shutting down the brain, but even like creating a time to actually sit and watch your favourite film, right? Literally, sounds silly, but if it actually is your favourite film of all time, probably not a Disney film if you're like me, because too much trauma, but I'm reliving my childhood. It's quite terrible. Jungle Book got me. Jungle Book killed me. I remember screaming in the cinema. Anyway, sidebar. Sight, so favourite film, a way of turning your brain off and just engaging in something and just almost, what's the word? Escapism, right? Escapism, but you're escaping from your thoughts that are creating the emotion. Sounds, listening to your favourite music or your favourite, whatever that is. Or, and this is true, sound machines. Although you don't have to have a sound machine now. I think sound machines are quite like, you know, so 5 years ago. But if you look at brain music, is actually, there's a real thing on Spotify called brain music. Brain music is, and I have used this over the years. Brain music is fantastic because it's almost like background noise that you can have in your earphones while doing something else, which completely at the right wavelength, I'm going to say wavelength, the right, lost my power of knowledge and words. Basically, it's the right tonality in your ear to distract your brain, or can focus your brain on certain tasks. So brain music, I used to have an app called Brain FM, fantastic, right? I think it still exists. However, the introduction to all this stuff on Spotify and Apple Music has kind of like meant it's not a necessity. If you ever want to listen to something like that, I mean, some people kind of laugh at whale music. Yeah. That wasn't a whale impression. That would be a terrible whale impression. It's not that laughable. It does actually work. It will distract someone's brain. It will help them switch off. So to go over the senses, you've got touch, taste, smell, sight, and sound, right? All things that we have that we can all explore and find different ways to move away from self-soothing and actually find different ways to distract the brain through the senses into seeing that this isn't, you know, all this confidence building over this works and this is the right thing to do and this gets me through. Actually, there's all other things you can explore that can do that. Ultimately, though, I think it's got to be something you will explore perhaps in a moment or even explore now and say, even if I've got low level stress, I talked about the gauge. Like, it doesn't have to be the extremes I've mentioned. It could just be, like I said, I did touch on a hard day at work or somebody sent a crappy email or whatever, and it's, you feel that anxiety and you know that you're reaching for something. These are all things that you can still put into place now that may then help you and support you later if something larger was to happen or more stressful or create more anxiety and fear or worry, that you could then call and say, well, actually, I know what works for me. Bit of Brain FM, nice massage from the other half, candles, aromatherapy, banger. I'm dealing with this without a bottle of wine or chocolate, right? So, and what does that do? Ultimately, if you go back to the energy balance, like if you're using other senses to deal with these things, maintenance of weight or continued loss of weight. So there's always a valuable outcome to exploring different ways to coping with personal pain now. Blimey, I think, yeah, that is definitely covered. That is definitely covered live. So that is self-soothing. So Friday, when I have my hair done, nothing should happen before Friday. You will see me on Friday with better hair. So happy. And I'll be talking about along the same lines and kind of, it is along the same size. It's called increasing suffering and what we do when we're already struggling. How we increase the suffering. Why would you do that? But we do. So join me on Friday at 5 o'clock. I'll be talking about increasing suffering. Until then, if you want to get more information about how we work with clients, etc., it is going to be on Facebook and Instagram. All messages and comments welcome, as always. And I will see you all Friday.